Thanks to the support as a channel member, Dan Taylor SEO. Well, regardless of what happens over the next few years, it's going to be a long time before we're regularly playing the likes of Manchester United and Liverpool again. So it's probably time to get started on a new, more appropriate rivalry, which is why it's absolutely perfect that in the fourth qualifying round of the FA Cup, we've drawn FC United of Manchester. Let's go beat them. Hello and welcome to part 4 of Saving Man City. I'm Kevin. Coming up on today's episode, we have that fourth qualifying round tie. That's mad. Manchester City in the fourth qualifying round of the FA Cup. But we're away against FC United, who do consider us fierce rivals. We're not really aware they exist. Actually, no. I was going to say we're not really aware they exist. They are there as an other rival, along with Southend. I don't know why Southend. So we hate them. They don't even know. Why is Southend on there? But FC United, they're our other rivals. We're their fierce rivals. We're off to Manchester. I guess we are in Bury now. So is Bury considered? It's Greater Manchester, right? You'd think I'd have learned all the local law. Since you were last with me, as you would imagine, we have continued to win all of our football matches. I'm not going to show you a league game today, unless things start to go wrong in the league. I think we're kind of just going to let the league happen in the background this season now and assume we are going to win it. Although Notts County really are pushing us all the way. So we might show you Notts County if and when we play them. If we're definitely going to play them. We might show the Notts County game if it's still close when we get there. But what I'm thinking is it might be fun to track our FA Cup run this year, just really to get an idea of where this squad stands. We know we're good enough to get promoted from the National League if we keep these boys together. Cole Palmer's likely to be the next one who heads out of the club in January, you would imagine. Villa and Leeds both want him. He is absolutely tearing apart the National League. And financially, we are getting to the point where the Phil Foden money is running out. And certainly by the time the January transfer window comes around, we're going to be ready for another cash injection. So he's probably going to be on his way. But I am interested, the rest of the squad, where they stand in terms of where our ceiling is likely to be with the current players. Obviously, we've got most of the best players in the National League. But assuming we get past FC United, which you'd like to think we should, they're down in tier 7. This should be an absolute mauling today. But assuming we get past them, it would be interesting to come up against a League 2 club, a League 1 club, a Championship club, get an idea of just how good or potentially bad this group of players is, even though bearing in mind as we go up the leagues, we're obviously going to be losing players because they're going to get sold. Palmer likely to be the next one on his way, as previously mentioned. So this is the team we are sending to Manchester. We've got Trafford in goal, a back four of Wilson as Brand, Doyle, Harwood Bellis and Jan Couto. Charles at the base of the midfield. We've actually got a little bit of a mini injury crisis back there with Rico Lewis currently not available. Tommy Doyle is off on holiday because he was struggling fitness-wise, so Shea Charles is going to play as a deep-lying playmaker despite not being fully fit himself. Fiorini and McAtee ahead of him, then Rodgers on the left, who, by the way, Rodgers, since taking over from Phil Foden, Rodgers has been absolutely fantastic on that left-hand side. So Rodgers on the left, Palmer on the right, Delap up front. Let's head to FC United of Manchester and get cracking with our new local rivalry. I know we have played Liverpool this season in the Community Shield, but unless we get them in I guess in the FA Cup, it's the only opportunity we've got to play the likes of Liverpool or Manchester United. This is probably our big derby day for the season. So we want to come here and do a big fat football. Harwood Bellis then, our centre-back, plays it into Palmer, who is too good for the National League, so certainly should be too good for FC United of Manchester, all the way back to Trafford, and now it's Doyle, forward to Wilson, who plays it over the top to Liam Delap, who brings it down on his chest, but it's intercepted by the FC United defender, but only cleared as far as Couto. It's back with Delap, and that's a wonderful save from the FC United goalkeeper. It was point-blank range from Liam Delap. Cross comes in, heads it towards goal, and it's a very, very good save to keep things at 0-0. We're 10, 15 minutes in. FC United haven't had a shot yet. They're barely getting a kick of the football possession-wise, but they have managed to keep us at bay so far. Palmer with the in-swinger and Harwood Bellis with his header that goes just over. I mean, the fact that they consider us fierce rivals, and this is the closest they've ever been to playing at our level, they're probably going to be quite up for it today. So you would expect them to be very motivated. An absolutely packed stadium, as you can see. And the local fans will probably be thinking that they've potentially got an opportunity to cause a little bit of an upset. Couto to Palmer, who plays it over the top to Rogers, nods it down to Delap. That is lovely football. And Liam Delap, a little bit lax with his finishing, hits the post. But that was a lovely move. Palmer to Rogers into the path of Delap. And 9 times out of 10, Liam Delap scores there. It's Couto now with the in-swinger, looking for the far post. And now Harwood Bellis has hit the post. My God, are we just destined not to score today? We have been all over them. XG-wise, possession-wise, it's been absolute dominance in this first half, but it does remain 0-0 as we cruise towards half-time. And this has been an excellent defensive performance from FC United of Manchester. Harwood Bellis with another opportunity from a corner, this time a near-post one, and he can't keep his header down. It remains 0-0. And FC United are going to be absolutely delighted with that as a first-half performance. They've not created anything for themselves. They've barely touched the football. What they have done is defended valiantly and kept it tight. And it's the FA Cup. Anything can happen. The magic of the cup and all that. If we get knocked out by FC United of Manchester, I'm going to be a little sad about that. I haven't even checked what the club vision expectation is for the FA Cup. That is a very sloppy penalty to give away. And that is a shame for FC United to let us take control of the game in that manner, because the ball and the player had moved on well beyond where that foul was taking place. And Cole Palmer is not going to miss from the penalty spot. He does put us 1-0 up. It's definitely been coming. It's his 15th goal of the season, and we do find ourselves 5 minutes into this second half, 1-0 up. And that should be that. FC United are now going to have to actually try and attack, which they haven't really done for any of the rest of the match so far. So they've in that situation, similar to what we were in against Liverpool in the Community Shield, where they either try and get back into the game and grab an equaliser, or they just try and minimise the damage and continue to defend the way they've been defending so far. Couto plays it across, it falls to Delap, and his shooting is wayward again. And it's still only, I tell you what, while it's only 1-0, they've got a chance. They, set piece, corners, anything like that kind of thing. When it's only a 1-goal difference, there's always a route back into the game. So it'd be very nice for us to grab a second, please. Rogers into the path of Delap, who beats his man, tries to shoot across goal. I think it was going wide anyway, but their goalkeeper saves pretty comfortably. The fact he's caught the football demonstrates just how comfortable that was as a save. Despite this being the FA Cup, we're only allowed 3 substitutions. That must be a qualifying round thing. Shay Charles wasn't fully fit anyway, so we'll take him off. Bring on Finley Burns, and we're actually going to try what we've talked about doing a couple of times, because we've got so many defenders and we've now run out of defensive midfield players. If we go and do this and just do that and go to a back 3, which isn't something you see from me very often. Take a screenshot. Kev's doing a back 3. This is uncharted territory. We're also going to take off Liam Delap and put Rogers up front. Delap has been really poor in this game. We're going to bring on Micah Hamilton, veteran of the original home, I think. Micah Hamilton. He's going to come on that left-hand side. His opportunities have been limited so far, but as we start to collect a few injuries, a few tired players, because these young players do get tired, as we start to have to rotate a little bit, Hamilton is probably going to see that little bit more game time. Wilson charging forward on the left-hand side, though. Can he find the cross? I mean, he's just running back and forward with it at the moment. I think he's going to have a shot of his own. It would have been a wonder goal, but he ended up taking the shot on his right foot, which the amount of dribbling around he'd done there, he had ample opportunity to get that onto his favoured left foot, but didn't. Fiorini now with a free kick, and it goes just over. I tell you what, FC United will be absolutely delighted with us only beating them thanks to a penalty that it wasn't even a penalty that we won. It was a penalty that they gave away. There was no reason. It was such a silly penalty to give away, but they've done very well. But now Morgan Rogers continues his excellent run of goal scoring form to make it 2-0, and that is all over now. So we can now make our final change. We'll just watch this replay from the other angle. Match 2 of this episode will be the next round of the FA Cup. We're just going to follow along with this FA Cup run. I'll obviously play the league games in between. If anything significant happens, I'll let you know. But we're going to keep an eye on this FA Cup run just to get an idea of how good we are. Like I say, we're going to bring on Carlos Borges on the right-hand side, give Palmer a little bit of a rest. It's rare that Palmer doesn't play a full 90, but there's no reason for him to play a full 90 against a team at this level in this competition. Obviously, our priority is winning the league, I think. I need to check the club vision just to see that we did reduce the club reputation as part of their database changes, so there shouldn't be an expectation that we win the FA Cup or anything silly like that. Be competitive in the FA Cup. I mean, I don't know. What the board are pleased we've reached the first round. Is that enough for us to be competitive? The fact the board are now pleased, does that mean we can now lose in the next round? Because if we get a top League One team, I don't know that we're going to be able to beat them. That would be the kind of thing that would be quite nice to find out now. Give us a big League One team. I want to test us. So it is now time for the draw for the first round proper of the FA Cup. Obviously, we would like a big League One team. Robert Prozinecki. Did he ever even play in England? He's here to do the FA Cup draw. But I'd quite like us to face Peterborough as a Peterborough fan. I think that would be fun. I guess there are teams in and around Greater Manchester that it would be fun from a story perspective as well, the likes of Bolton, who I can see in front of me now. Obviously, there's more of that. Bolton have already gone. Cambridge, Tranmere. Okay, come on then. Give us... Stockport would have been an interesting one. See, that would be... away against Sheffield Wednesday, that's a real test. I'd like us to come out here, please. No, Portsmouth would have been a decent game as well. Salford would have been fun. They're on our rivals list, I think. We're certainly on their rivals list. We're the big time team around here. These other teams, we're Manchester City, don't you? It's that kind of attitude that got us in this pickle in the first place. We have to be more humble. Right, are we ever coming out of this hatch? See, I don't want a non-league team. A non-league team feels like a little bit of a waste. In fact, I think if we get a non-league team, we'll probably do that off camera as well and go straight through to the second round because I want a test. I am intrigued. I want to know how good this team is and see us compete against a team at a higher level than we're currently at, because I know we're good enough to beat teams in non-league. We do it every week. Here we go. Manchester City will be at home against... Well, I said I wanted a test. Manchester City versus Derby in the first round of the FA Cup. That is a test. Goodness me. Reputation-wise, there's probably few teams bigger than Derby in League One, and they're fourth in League One. They're a decent side, having a decent season. That is going to be a test. If we can go and beat Derby, we know that theoretically, if we can keep the team together, we can get a couple of promotions. Obviously, it won't be quite that simple because we're not likely to keep the team together. Finances are going to force us into selling the higher paid players, the higher value players to balance the books. So it's probably going to be the next group of young players that come through that are in the team by the time we get to League One. But it'll be an interesting test. Time machine, take me to the Derby game. Rico Lewis has been called up for England's World Cup squad. 17-year-old Rico Lewis, who's only started 9 games for us, isn't a regular starter in our team. I know it's only the preliminary squad. He's probably not going to the World Cup. I suggest that's another player who will be leaving us, though. I mean, that is a big squad. That's a squad that's got Dominic Solanke in. Okay, let's not read too much into it. That's a squad of about 1,000 people. If you're English, you get called 55 players in that squad. Okay, let's not read too much into a 55-man squad. But Rico Lewis, we really need to find a way to start playing this boy, don't we? So a few more wins in the league under our belt. This is what the league table is looking like. Notts County still pushing us hard. Only 4 points behind with a game in hand. They're quite good, it seems. And we're not necessarily thumping everybody anymore. Just the 1-0 win over Halifax, 2-0 over Scunthorpe. It's going to be interesting when we come to January and probably have to sell Cole Palmer because he is dragging us along. But as you can see, we have dipped back down into the red again. So there's definitely going to need to be that new sale coming in January, if not more than one, to inject some money back into the coffers. But today is not about that. Today is about testing ourselves against Derby. Even though this 11 is probably never going to make it to League One because we're going to have to sell them to balance the books. I mean, look how many of them are wanted. It'd be interesting to see in a fantasy world where this 11 was plomped into the top 6 or so of League One. would we have a chance of getting promoted? I think that's an unchanged team from the previous game in the FA Cup. It's certainly our usual starting 11, so everybody is available. This is a big test for us. Manchester City at home against Derby, or as at home as we can be. Now we play out at Bury, and I genuinely don't know what I'm expecting here. I would like to think we'll be fairly evenly matched. In my mind, this squad of players is probably there or thereabouts League One quality, but whether or not it's League One promotion quality, I'm not so sure. Obviously, Cole Palmer stands out, but he's the best player on the pitch for either team, so he's going to be a little bit of a difference maker that, like I say, when we get to League One, we're not going to have. But if that's the only difference between the two teams, then I'm pretty confident that my expectation of where this squad is about right, and then it just becomes about trying to figure out how to keep hold of as many of them as we possibly can, or at least bring through the next generation and hope they're half as good as this lot. Liam Delap plays it back to Rogers. It goes to McAtee, and McAtee shoots from range, and there is the opening goal. This one is not going to be disallowed for offside. McAtee with his 5th goal of the season, and I mean, there was no involvement there for Cole Palmer. These boys are quite good, aren't they? And this is very much an exercise in putting players in the shop window. I'm talking a lot about how sad I'm going to be when we start losing some of these players. But at the same time, we need to sell the good ones. We need to maximize the amount of money we can get for them so that we can start balancing the books. If we can avoid administration for as long as possible, and I'm not naive enough to think we're never going to go into administration with the huge loan payments that we've got. I imagine it's something that's going to happen more than once in this save. But I'd like to delay it as much as possible because obviously with administration comes points deductions, and we'd quite like to have our administrations in seasons when we weren't going to get promoted anyway, where points deductions don't really matter. Fiorini played in behind and smashes it past the Derby goalkeeper. We're only 10 minutes in and we are 2-0 up. These boys are quite good. This is the spirit, boys. Get yourselves in the shop window. Let's sell 5 of you in January. Hopefully by then we'll be clear enough at the top of the table for us to be able to go into cruise control with a slightly lessened squad and £100 million in the bank to start paying off some of these repayments. That would be lovely. But Fiorini, lovely finish from him. And I mean, Cole Palmer, who has been our best player all the way through this season, not really got involved today, and we're still 2-0 up against a team from League One. Manchester City's youth setup is quite good, isn't it? That's what I'm learning as part of this save. If you are a Manchester City fan watching this, I mean, assuming Football Manager is right, these young players you've got are all right. And you don't need to keep buying your Grealishes and your Haalands. Just these lot are all right. It'd be good enough to play in League One. Ball over the top. There is Cole Palmer in behind, and there is number 3. And I will level with you. I was not expecting this. My goodness me. This is quite the performance from these young players today. And I imagine with this match being first up on Match of the Day, which I'm sure it is, there's going to be a lot more players who are attracting interest from bigger clubs in the near future. January is going to be very interesting. In January will be tomorrow's episode. We'll see how we survive the January transfer window. And then I think from there, we probably just go straight through to the end of the season and get this season wrapped up. Because obviously we know we're just going to win lots of matches and we want to get into League Two, have a look to see what the financial situation is and what the squad looks like then. I'm also really keen to see what the first youth intake is going to be as part of this save, because obviously we've absolutely stripped back the facilities, so we're not going to get young players of this kind of quality. Are they going to be good enough to step in and replace the players that we've got to sell to balance the books? That's going to be the key. Palmer with the corner for the in-swinger. Derby have just gone down to 10 men as well. For those of you who do watch whilst driving your car, watching with only your ears, we are now 3-0 up and Derby are down to 10 men just as we approach half-time. And this is very much demonstrating one of the reasons why I made as many changes to the database as I did. There were a few questions in the comments to the first couple of episodes about why I went quite so extreme and making it so hard, particularly with the financial situation. And it's because exactly this, the original database, the one I linked to in episode 1, which just took the players away and did the relegation, when I holidayed that forward, all we found is just 5 consecutive promotions, City back in the Premier League, and it was as if nothing had ever happened after 5 years. And I didn't want that to be the case in this save. I knew this bunch of players were good, But I also know, because of what we've done with the finances stuff, we can't keep this squad together. So it is going to have plenty of financial challenges along the way, which, of course, are going to cause problems on the pitch because we have to sell all our players. Derby have got a goal back here, 3-1 now. I'm talking as if we've absolutely battered them and we're guaranteed our spot in the second round of the FA Cup. But that's, I mean, them grabbing a goal there, you never know. They could sneak their way back in. It would be quite nice for us to grab a fourth. In fact, Wilson Esbrand has picked up an injury here. So it's an opportunity for us to give some game time to Cliverth Aguilar, who is on 20 grand a week. He's a right back, but he's only played one substitute appearance for us this season. We don't have a left back on the bench. Rico Lewis is still injured, despite being called up to that provisional World Cup squad. He's been injured for like a month. So, and that's his second injury of the season as well. Rico Lewis struggling a little bit. I imagine the fact that he was called up for the World Cup provisional squad means that he's another one of those players we should be able to cash in on in January. But would have been handy to be able to bring him on there. Although, of course, that does then open up the thing that we talked about a couple of episodes ago, where if we sell all the fullbacks, we're going to have to change the system at some point. And obviously the system is working very well at the moment. We've gone 4-1 up against a very strong Derby team. And it's, I mean, we've dominated them. I know they're down to 10 men now, but we've made it very clear that we're the better team in this match. Oh, we've got 5 substitutions to make. Let's get some of these more fringe players on. What's that, 4? And we'll take off Fiorini and bring on Oscar Bob as well. In fact, no, forget that. We're going to bring on Micah Hamilton, and he can play in that box-to-box midfield role. So all 5 substitutions have been made. Lovely to be back in the world of 5 substitutions again. And it's been a very, very solid performance, Rise. I said we'd learn a lot in today's episode. A lot has been learned. Now it's all about how well we survive the transfer window in January, which will be coming up tomorrow. Doyle with the thwack from the edge of the area, and it's tipped over the crossbar by the Derby goalkeeper. We are relentless. We're looking for number 5 here. And at the moment, the Manchester City fans probably feeling quite good about how the next couple of seasons are likely to go. How little do they know quite how bad the financial situation is that they're not quite fully privy to. But for now, we'll let them enjoy their fun. They're having a good afternoon. We can go and win the FA Cup. That's the kind of nonsense they'll be spouting now. We could go and win the FA Cup. We're not going to, but I mean, it'd be interesting to test us against Championship opposition, against Premier League opposition. If we can do this to Derby, I think we're fairly confident we're going to get to at least the 3rd round of the FA Cup. There shouldn't be anyone in the next round who's capable of knocking us out. So if we get a Championship team, we get a Premier League team in that next round, what might happen? All sorts of exciting things still to come. But in the meantime, Derby are desperately trying to grab a second goal, and we're just comfortably keeping them at arm's length, despite having a player out of position and a bunch of fringe players on the pitch. Couto comes forward, gives it to McAtee, who slides it into the path of Borges, and there is number 5. And we are, I mean, it's been disallowed, I think. It has been disallowed. 2 disallowed goals on top of the 4 that we scored. It's been quite the day to be a Manchester City fan. Lovely stuff. If you have enjoyed that video, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And thank you very much for watching.